Good morning. Hello. Welcome. Happy Thursday for all of you joining on the live and any of you on the replay. Welcome. I am Dr. Melissa Gallagher. I'm a naturopathic physician. And every morning I host a natural health news live show surrounding COVID news. That's the first half of our show. And then the latter half is based on topics and health tips and resources that can keep you and your families healthy and well during this pandemic. And today, I'm really excited to share with you a topic that is near and dear to all of our bodies and our system regulation. It is how to activate your vagus nerve. This is a really critical nerve for our central nervous system, our parasympathetic system. It is very critical at balancing our hormones, reducing anxiety and stress, enhancing immunity, revving up our metabolic process, enhancing our ability to process insulin. There's a lot that goes into activating the vagus nerve. And I'm going to share some tips. And these are a lot of really easy DIY things you can do. You know, I love DIYs. I love things that are inexpensive and just really resourceful for you at home. So we're going to dig into that. That'll be in the latter part or mid part of this show. So if you are watching on the replay, first, hit the subscribe and follow button. Second of all, check the show notes or the description box. I will actually have a timestamp where you can go to watch specifically the vagus nerve. If you just want to fast forward and not hear anything about COVID news, which I know a lot of you don't, just fast forward and you'll get that information. So for all of you on the live, welcome. We survived our first day of virtual school yesterday, and today we kicked off at 8 a.m. this morning. I feel like I'm back in kindergarten. So, but it's actually going a lot better than last season. So I'm very excited about that. We have an awesome teacher who's super technical and technology savvy. So love that. But I'm really excited to share a whole bunch of news with you. I have just a few printouts and some research that actually, if you have any children, like high school age kids in your families, there's going to be some really shocking information. I was shocked, and sometimes I'm not as easily shocked on the health front, but this was shocking, the stats. So I'll go over that as well. But today, let's talk about what's going on in the world. The world's at 20.6 million cases. The U.S. is at almost 5.3 million cases. Yesterday, the U.S. did not have a great day. We had almost over 57,000 new positive cases. Most critical is we had a very large fatality day. So we had more deaths yesterday than we've had since May. I think it was early May. We've now reached that fatality peak, and we're going to continue to see that incline. Now, one of the things that we have to expect, and I've highlighted it to all of you, when we've had states like Arizona, Texas, Florida, California, and even now Georgia have really high caseloads and high hospitalization rates, 2 or 3 weeks later, we start to see the fatalities go up, and that's what's happening. I do want to highlight some international news because we do have a lot of international followers. And so for all of you, just comment down below. Let me know what state you're coming in and watching from. And first, I want to thank Pat Wagner, our wonderful moderator. She is like blocking out a lot of spammers and intense commenters. So I'm grateful to you, Pat. You and Ron are awesome. And the kitties, lots of kitty love. Okay, so let's talk about some international news. So Brazil is at 3.1 million cases. India is at 2.1 million. And as far as India, there is an Indian citizen who lives in Malaysia. And he was jailed because he violated quarantine orders. And they have linked this one gentleman to 45 cases in Malaysia. And he's been jailed for an extended period of time. And the fine is like $2,800 US there. I thought that was really interesting. We don't even know, in some cases, the number that, if you're positive, you may have accidentally and indirectly and unintentionally infected individuals. There are so many other countries that have such a much better isolation in terms of identifying contact tracing that they can actually identify that. So that is very interesting. It's horrible that he's had that amount of spread or been responsible for, but that is what one case. So if you've tested positive, there's a likelihood if you haven't stayed at home, you haven't worn a mask, even family and friends, anybody in your close center unit, your pod group, there might be some exposure there. Now, this is also interesting. I highlighted, I think it was yesterday, Russia. It was actually the other day. I think it was Tuesday. So Russia approved the first vaccine, COVID vaccine. Now it got rushed through. Less than 100 people underwent this trial, and boom, it's out there. Well, now the Philippine president, Duterte, I think that's how you say his name. He's the crazy guy in the Philippines. He is signing himself up. The Russians are going to have him take their vaccine. And, that's really scary, but that's the international news there. I do want to highlight, you guys know I'm in Georgia, and Georgia is just blowing up when it comes to the school situation. We now have over, it's phenomenal the amount of kids that have had exposure, but this one high school has closed. It's not even the high school that was in the news where the two girls were suspended because they posted to Twitter, the halls being really condensed. This is a totally different school in our county, the county I live in. It's called Etowah High School. They have 14 positive confirmed cases, 15 pending cases. All of these kids, their kids and staff members, have been at school. Our county, Cherokee County, where I live, there is no mask mandate. And so if people don't want to wear a mask, they don't have to. And schools are not requiring it. Like our school, the Gabriel School, he's not even going there, but they've required masks. So all the kids are masked up, teachers as well. So it's a total of this one high school. There's 294 students and staff that are in quarantine. Right now in Georgia, there's 1,000 individuals quarantined because of this. And our county has 42,000 enrolled. There's 30,000 that are actually attending in-person school. So 1,000 of 30,000 is pretty significant when we look at those numbers. So I'll probably be reporting a lot of news. We might even at some point be reporting Gabriel School might be impacted, even though they've taken a lot of measures. So just know schools, we're seeing just a astounding amount of cases and growth. And I'll talk a little bit about kids and health and school in a little bit. I do want to make a note. California had a crazy day. They posted 11.6 thousand new positive cases. Their fatalities increased to 180 people. 180 Californians died of COVID yesterday alone. Florida broke a record in terms of fatalities. So they posted 8,100 new cases. They're still not 100% back online with the results post hurricane season or post the hurricane last week or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it was last week. They came back online on the 6th. So there's still cases outstanding, but they had 213 fatalities yesterday. So that's crazy. 213 Floridians died. In Texas, they had 324 Texans die of COVID. Georgia, we had 100. We hit a record in Georgia. We passed 100. We had 105 Georgians die of COVID. And then we're seeing some other states that are also starting to ramp up. Some things about the vaccine. There was some new reporting out with regard to some of these trials is that the obesity epidemic might actually make the vaccine less effective. And I don't know the details. It hasn't really been fully published, but that is some beginning chatter about the vaccines that the individuals that have mild, moderate, or extreme obesity, the effective part or the effectiveness of the vaccine might decrease. I also do want to highlight that there is, when we're talking about the economy and jobs, there's a direct correlation to COVID and the work world. And, if you're like me, you're working in this crazy situation where you might be at home, you've got your kids, your schedule has completely changed, and you're operating on the bare minimum. And what they've seen, some data out, is that COVID is forcing more women and more people of color into early retirement or leaving the workforce. There's 3 million people right now between the ages of 55 and 70 who have left the workforce. Some have been forced into early retirement, like Delta I mentioned here in Atlanta. Delta pushed 20% of their force into either early retirement, bought packages, the kind of situation where they're getting people off their payroll and getting them out the door. Some have left by that type of method, others by choice. I know a lot of teachers have retired. We are actually still getting emails from teachers, tutors, and folks in the education world who have left it because they don't feel safe in the environment in school. And the unemployment rate for 55-year-olds has increased by 55 or older, 8.8%. And when we break it down, the most hardest hit are food services, entertainment, and retail. They're expecting in the next 3 months, we're going to add 1.1 million more 55 plus individuals to that tally of unemployed or early, choices, they've chosen or have taken early retirement. The breakdown is really kind of interesting. There are some racial discrepancies here. On the people of color side, the most hardest hit are women. 12% of the women who've left this workforce, 55 to 70, are women of color, and all different types of women of color. 12% are women of color. Men are 10%. 10% of the men who are of color have left the workforce, as opposed to white women and white men. White women are obviously more, they're, as far as men and women, we get hit hardest. And I've already reported some of that. Women are, corporate and professional women are now juggling all of it, more so than men. Men will say they do more, but they really don't. So, and no offense to my men, but I'm just highlighting some of the statistics and polls and things like that. But women, 7.5% are women, white women, and 5.5% are white men. So we see already some of those racial discrepancies. And I see some folks going, yes, Birdhouse Barbie. And I have to apologize. I was outside earlier, so I've got some allergies. If you're curious, I have a huge, if you want updates on my garden, check out my Instagram story feed. My watermelon is getting big. I'm having to make these like homemade watermelon hammocks. It's gotten this big. You can't even see it on the screen, Instagram. It's huge. Okay, so I also do want to highlight the shocking point when it came down to kids. So let's talk about children. In the last month, the stats are alarming for pediatric cases of COVID. And some of these are like 25 and under. So there's going to be a gap between 18 and 25. They're really young adults, but they consider them in the testing numbers. We've had a 90% increase in 1 month, children and young minorities, young adults who've tested positive for COVID. Florida, Georgia, Illinois, and Tennessee each have 15,000 cases of children who have COVID. Louisiana, Virginia, and California each have at least 10,000 plus cases, pediatric cases. Now, what's come out is that there are some associations. This came out, actually, it came out yesterday. Out of the Journal of Adolescent Health, they talk a little bit about some of the underlying health factors for kids, an element that maybe you may or may not be aware of, young teen, or young adult, is that there's an association between young smoking, cigarette use, and COVID-19. And the link is vaping. And this is like mind-blowing. Kids are vaping at 13 and 14. So it's not cigarettes, right? They don't consider it cigarette, and they have flavors. They have like donut flavors, bubble gum. I mean, crazy nerds flavors. But these younger kids are vaping. And in fact, the breakdown of this, 20% of 10th graders are vaping. 10% of our 10th grade population, they're vaping. 25%, 1 out of every 4 high school kids is vaping. So that might be part of an underlying factor that we need to address. We need to address it as families, and then certainly public health education and school-related health education that vaping is quite overwhelming. And this is just one. This came out of the Journal of Adolescent Health, but there are more about vaping and the lung capacity. I highlighted something back in April where it talks about vaping. It already causes esophageal, mucosal lining inflammation, that also bronchial, and then lung-related inflammation. So already the vaping's putting young children, developing kids, 13-year-olds, like where are they buying that? So there's a risk factor in the vaping world. And what they break down is that vaping, teens and young adults who vape are 5 to 7 times more likely to have COVID. So they have it, and then it's more than a mild case. So this study was aimed to assess whether youth cigarette and e-cig use was associated with COVID symptoms, testing, and diagnosis. And so they're 5 to 7 times more likely to actually have COVID. And in fact, testing, what they found is 2 to 3 times more likely among male, African-American, Black, other multiracial, and those who are underweight. That is really interesting. So, as opposed to a lot of times people are saying, oh, the obesity, this is where some of those folks who are underweight, and sometimes cigarette or nicotine, e-cigs, it cuts their appetite. And so they might not, have higher BMIs because of just that, the eating cessation decreases. But I found that really fascinating. And I'll post this link. It actually has a whole bunch of info in terms of breakdown of ages. But literally, in this study, it's almost equal. Adolescents 13 to 17, young adults 18 to 21, and then 22 to 24. There are more 18 to 21-year-olds vaping, but there's actually more 13 to 17-year-olds vaping in the study than 22 to 24-year-old adults. Craziness. It's crazy. And the majority of them are normal, healthy BMIs. Now, here's another thing. The greater quantity, like location, Southeast. The Southeast, the region in the U.S., Northeast, it was 909 kids in the study. Midwest, 918. South, 1,500. So a whole lot more in the South. And then the West is 990. But the South is almost just under double. So 40% more than the other regions, which is really, really crazy. And it's just really crazy. So I wanted to highlight that. And they break down cigarettes only, e-cigs. It's almost equal. And some are using both. But at any rate, that to me was shocking. Let me comment down below. Are you shocked by that? So that is one big thing. The other thing that I do have some comments about colleges. So Penn State University, their students, they're making them sign a COVID waiver when they come on campus and they come back to school. We've also seen more of the college football programs go offline. So that's going to be really big. And then also the NFL is extending more testing to their participants, their athletes. So and coaches and all the staff. So we're going to see an increase in testing. I just don't know how college football does it. There's just too many variables. It's one thing if you have an employee and you can mandate, you can have new contracts, and it's like, you won't do X, Y, and Z, and you've got to stay along these lines. With college kids, it's voluntary. College football, any of the athletic sports. So I'll keep reporting that. But what I really wanted to highlight too is something that really caught my attention, posted online yesterday. It's called From the Heart, and it came out in JAMA Cardiology. And it's just like a little one page. And essentially it is the tale of a medical doctor, a cardiologist. She works at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, New York, frontline worker. And her name is Dr. Janet Shapiro. She caught COVID. And she caught it on the front line. And she talks about in this article about how overwhelming COVID was to her body and how she experienced it, not just as a clinician, but she experienced it herself. And she talks about, what are the lessons of a relatively mild case for the physician patient. And she says, COVID-19 is really, really tragic, worse than what we could have ever expected. I experience what is to feel one's body, the difficult of a breath, a fast heartbeat, the vagueness of feeling unwell, and the fear it brings. And she said, this is what patients experience on a daily basis. No one is safe from illness. COVID-19 reminded me of the miracle and the fragility of the human body. She said, isolation of patients is painful to observe and to imagine for oneself. Our humanity is sustenance in this crisis, working together, caring for each other, hearing neighbors' cheers, and providing kindness to patients and families, even from a distance. It gives me chills, friends. Like these types of articles are very rare in the medical world. I don't know how tuned in you guys are into some of generally these medical journals. It's all just straight science. It's all just facts and data. This is very, very critical. And the fact that it's come into play in the cardiology world, she talks about her experience, and clinicians have to have that connectivity to what it's like. So she talks about how she even tested positive, went home and then came back. And she said, while I was working, I returned to work, I rushed back to the ICU. And then she said, however, a few days I felt worse. She said, I sensed my heart rate was increasing and going fast, even when I woke up. She said, I couldn't maintain my pace in the hospital. She said she couldn't breathe with her N95. And she said, I couldn't even stand for rounds. She said, I walked into the echocardiology lab and I was watching my echocardiogram. And she said, I could see that the wall motion was not the vigorous contraction it could be. So like as a cardiologist, she's seeing her own body in that meltdown state. So I wanted to highlight that because I think it's really critical. Clinicians, especially these physicians who catch it themselves, or like that story recently, there was a father-son, two medical doctors. Dad was a doctor, son was a doctor. Both of them frontline workers, both of them caught COVID, both of them died. So these clinicians and physicians, they're putting their lives on the line. And those who get COVID have more, I think, relatability than you even realize. Now, extend that out to your GP, your internist. They may or may not have that familiarity with it and just how overwhelming it is and how long it takes to recover. So I've gotten a lot of questions from folks who said, how long does it take to recover? And, I feel really bad. It's been 3 weeks. Well, you're in the long haul. It's, sometimes you still have an active state of COVID in your body. So I want to dig now into your vagus nerve. I'm really excited to talk to you about this. I'm excited to share with you about 5 to 6 ways to activate your vagus nerve. And if you're not familiar with your vagus nerve, it's actually a really darn big nerve. And it starts up in the brain. There's kind of legs. So, the main kind of brain, if you will, the vagus nerve is here in the brain. And then it travels down and it goes into your torso. It is what we call your body communication superhighway. And so when we're talking about nerves, a lot of times we're thinking about nerve bundles and, like if you have tennis elbow, there might be a little nerve patch here and you're feeling kind of radiation. With the vagus nerve, there's a lot of times your vagus nerve might be dysfunctional, inactive, or just has been damaged by surgery or injury. Totally common, way more common than we realize. And activating your vagus nerve will actually turn on your regulation process. And the vagus nerve plays so many different important roles in your body. It's regulating your immune system. So ding, ding, win-win for any of you trying to keep yourselves healthy. It lowers inflammation levels. So if you have autoinflammatory and any type of autoinflammatory disease, autoimmunity, you have inflammatory bowel syndrome, any type of inflammation, skin inflammation, ocular inflammation, even scalp related inflammation. For a lot of you who have watched my hair video from Sunday, there's just so much it regulates. It regulates your metabolic process. It regulates your ability to intake insulin levels. It also regulates your heartbeat, your heart rate. So the heart rate, your blood pressure, it's also responsible for sweating. So there's some lymphatic involvement, your digestive process, it regulates. And then also your breathing. And so for all of us dealing with this global pandemic, if you have had or dealing with COVID or trying to prevent it and keep your body healthy and optimized, the most important thing you can do is to activate, trigger, turn on, and get your actual central nervous system and this vagus nerve working, get it out of dysfunction and getting it functional, because you're going to notice the brain to organ connection. So every organ, every gland is going to have connection to your vagus nerve. So I want to share with you some critical things. Now, first of all, you're like, okay, how do I know if I have vagus nerve dysfunction? So I'm going to list off a few symptoms that are traditionally categorized as either dysfunction or potential damage. So if you've ever had any type of surgery, so neck-related surgery, removal of parathyroid, thyroid, maybe you've had surgery on your spine, you may have had your breast removed, maybe you've had some radiation chemo in the torso region, you may have had biopsies of your liver, any type of surgery to your gallbladder removal, appendix removal, any type of surgery that's going to cut into that torso. It's really beginning from the neck all the way down to the lower part of your lower abdomen. If you also experience fatigue, commonly when you get blood labs done, your doctors are trying to figure out if you have any B vitamin deficiencies linked to that. Insulin dysregulation, so pre-diabetes, diabetes. If you have glucose intolerances, those will be part of that dysfunction. An abnormal heart rate. So this could be on the higher end, where you're noticing AFib and you're experiencing a heart, not necessarily heart palpitations, but kind of racing heart. And that could be synonymous with your, when you wake up, like the cardiologist who highlighted her heart rate, if you wake up and you already kind of feel like, oh, I'm on edge, then that's your vagus nerve. Now, the other thing the vagus nerve is responsible for is your fight or flight system. So that's your natural, it's our intuition, our instinct. Are we fighting something or are we running? Most of the time people run. And so, not all of us are fighters, but that process that invigorates your adrenal glands, and it's what produces cortisol. Sometimes it's adrenaline, or the most common chronic hormone that gets produced is cortisol. So cortisol imbalances, I've talked a lot about that. Feel free to check out a lot of those videos. I'll try and link some of those videos below. I have a whole playlist about stress management, but cortisol, ultimately the vagus nerve is part of that. So if you've got high cortisol production and even too low, that's a vagus nerve dysfunction where we need to invigorate that. The other thing too is memory challenges, forgetfulness, and then also for folks that have liver dysfunction or notice digestive imbalances, IBS, that's vagus nerve related. And even, especially up here, if there's, been cervical issues, cervical spine, that's the neck itself up to the base, the atlas of your brain, of your skull. Swallowing. I have a lot of folks say, I have difficulty swallowing, and they think it's a thyroid and they get checked out. It's not their thyroid. It's your vagus nerve. So let's talk about some ways to invigorate your vagus nerve. So first and foremost, there are some nutritional deficiencies, and I have some links to 2 awesome products I recommend. One is zinc deficiency can create vagus nerve dysfunction. So your vagus nerve needs optimal zinc, not like, your everyday, requirements. If you're deficient, you need more than every day, but zinc is critical. Now, zinc is also linked to a healthy immune system. It's linked to all these other things, but part of that is it feeds and nourishes the vagus nerve. So zinc is really critical. You can eat lots of seeds and nuts to get zinc. I love the liquid. I don't have it here on my desk, but I love the liquid trace ionic minerals that's zinc forward. So you get more than enough zinc to support the vagus nerve. The second thing that we will see is that serotonin levels will be low. And so 5-HTP, and actually the supplement that I posted, it's linked down below. It is exactly what you need to support your body with, it's called Revital Age Nerve. I sell this in my Full Script store, and it actually has all of the pre-building blocks to support 5-HTP and to support the process of serotonin production. So part of this, it delivers the right nutrients for a healthy vagus nerve function. And that's what is really critical. So part of it is you need the right nutritional blocks. You can do all of these DIY, but if you don't have the nutrition that partners up and marries with all of these activities, we're missing the mark, okay? So number one, this actually goes back to, I think it was yesterday or the day before. I think it was so 2 days ago. So Tuesday's video, our live video, I talk about contrast therapy, hot and cold. So actually, one of the best ways to wake up your vagus nerve is to take a cold shower or a cold bath. Now, you can do cryotherapy. Those are those crazy things, those units where it's like freezing cold and you see the cold air condensing at the top of these units. Those usually go to your spas and health med spas. But what you can do every day when you shower, you do your shower, you clean your body, and then before you get out, after you're all done, turn your water to cold and stand there for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is enough to invigorate. You get that vasocontraction, but most importantly, you're invigorating your vagus nerve. So it is really critical, cold therapy. Some folks will do really intense, like hot and cold, that contrast therapy, but cold therapy is really, really critical. That's kind of a shocking state where it wakes up the vagus nerve. That's just like the thymus tapping. So I have videos on that. I have a link down below about my thymus tapping. That's another kind of element that you can do. But one, cold exposure. The second is a particular type of breathing technique. And a lot of times we use this in yoga, we use this in meditative practices. It's what we call the box count or the box breathing method. And it goes something like breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and repeat. So it's 4, breathe in, you hold for 4, you breathe out, and you hold, and then you repeat. So what that breathing does, and I just did that in a really small sense. When I breathe through my nose. I literally do. So what you do is you're going to activate some of those good acids, the good happy gases up there. But basically, box breathing is something you can do any time of the day. You can do it right before you wake up. So if you notice your vagus nerve is dysfunctional and you wake up already feeling stressed, like there are times I feel that way. I felt that way a little bit this week. And so I try and do a box breathing. Now, if you're kind of like us, we're a little tight on our schedule. When I'm in the cold, I do my 4 box, my breathing. So, and I'll do it for 4 or 8. I do it in segments of 4. So 4, 8, or 16. And I repeat that. So while you're hanging out in your cold water, you can do your 4, hold in for 4, or breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and repeat. That is a very deep, very therapeutic, and very invigorating process to waking up, activating that vagus nerve. Okay, so that is so powerful. Now, the other one is where we see a lot of the kind of meditative work, or like I love Kundalini yoga. If you're familiar with that, Google it, check it out on YouTube. There's a lot of really good kind of Kundalini yoga videos. Kundalini is all about breath, and it's also about certain humming and singing, and they're guttural sounds. I won't bore you. I'm not a great singer, but I will tell you that singing, humming, chanting, and then gargling all activate your vagus nerve. So on a daily basis, you're brushing your teeth at least 2 times a day. Okay. So the way to wake up and activate your vagus nerve after you brush your teeth, then, and this is great for your gums, it's good for your microbiota, you can do a gargle Okay, you can do a gargle in, and I actually have it here, really fine pink Himalayan salt. You can do a salt gargle. Now that's great because you're going to clear any kind of mucus. You're going to help your throat. You're going to reduce any inflammation. So doing a gargle, and the gargle, when you're gargling, this is how it works. You put your neck up, you do your gargle. As you're gargling, that activity, you are massaging the vagus nerve. You're waking it up. And you can do that for 30 seconds. You can do it for a minute. Now sometimes I will gargle apple cider vinegar. That's really intense. Sometimes if I have a little scratchy throat, that's like my go-to. I will gargle colloidal silver sometimes. So it kind of depends on what you want to gargle. But, the Himalayan salt is going to also serve a lot of other purposes, but you are going to really get that vagus nerve activated. Now, one of the other ways to activate it is, and I have to take my little earrings out. See my little toilet paper earrings? I've had a lot of you notice these. This is my little ode to the 2020 toilet paper crisis. I have these linked down below. This really amazing artist. They're really quite durable, but she makes these herself, and it's so cute. But I want to share with you how to massage your vagus nerve. Oh, let's see, Instagram's buffering. Okay, we're back. We have a lot of people online in our household today. So let's see. Okay, hopefully Instagram. If we have any difficulty, jump over to YouTube. Okay, so let's talk about how we are going to activate and massage our vagus nerve. And we do this only on the right side. And so the right side is where we're going to get more of that activation. And basically what you can do, and you can use, it works best if you use oil. I actually love to use my herbal botanical balm. It's the C, bumblebee, so the B, and then the D. Okay, so put those three letters together. That's my balm. I actually have links down below, 20% off discount code too. But I use that balm. So I get a lot of if you're going to do this, I love to kind of power punch a lot of what we do. And so that C, bumblebee, D, that herbal botanical topically is going to also minimize any inflammation within the nerve. I happen to have some cervical spine issues. So that also is helpful because I know my cervical spine is part of some of the dysfunction my nerve might be experiencing. Okay, so what you do, you get a balm, you can do coconut oil, any type of good, healthy massage oil. And I'm going to turn to all of you guys. So basically what you're going to do is you are going to start up here. And you can start right behind the ear. And 2-3 fingers, you're going to do circular pattern. Okay, now I also have to warn you, some of this, you might get ear drainage, just kind of draining down. You might also get postnasal drainage. You might get the lymphatics going. Totally normal. It's okay. You are still going to be activating your nerve. So what you do is you do circles. You do a circle from you go left to right, right to left. And you do circle down your carotid artery. So you're going to follow the carotid artery down in a circular pattern. And it doesn't have to be overly aggressive. You just want to apply some pressure and just move it down. Now I get a lot of lymph drainage. Hopefully you guys can see this. But this is the way that we activate your your nerve. So you start from here behind the ear and then go all the way down to the collarbone. Okay. So this is how I and you can activate your vagus nerve. You can also use your thumbs. You can do kind of, after you do your circles, you can just kind of invigorate it. Now I get a little red because I'm not using a balm, but that is extremely, extremely powerful for opening up and activating that nerve. Now, what you might experience, you might feel a little happier. You might notice that digestion improves a little bit over a period of time as you do all these activities. Now, you can put all these together every day. Take your zinc, take your Revital Age Nerve, supplement, which is very pro-nerve supportive. Again, for anybody who deals with any type of nerve issues, nerve damage, that's very helpful. So fibromyalgia, any of the nerve-related pains, that's all healing. But your vagus nerve, because it's your body's communication pathway and it's your communication highway system in your body, superhighway, it's like your internet, your cable lines. And so, how many of us have had internet issues? When the cable goes down, those emails and like your internet connectivity goes all haywire. That's what happens within our body when the vagus nerve is deactivated or dysfunctional. So you can really, really open up and get that moving. Now, that is one core area. There are points on your feet. I'm not going to do those demonstrations. If you want me to do a specific video on the feet, I can do that. I'm wearing a dress today, and I'm just not ready to show you my feet right now. So this is how you can improve your blood pressure. This is a way that you can increase your immune response. This is a way to lower your anxiety levels. This is a way to regulate your hormones in a healthy way. This is a way to balance your central nervous system. It's a way to support your adrenal glands by reducing the fight or flight response. It's also a way to improve your memory. If you have brain fog, this is an excellent way to get that balanced. And it's something you can do. It doesn't cost you any money. The cold, I'll just review this. Cold therapy. So you do cold exposure. You do a shower and then you end 5 minutes in cold water. And the first minute or two, you're like, okay, you're still warm. And then it just kind of comes to neutral. And then all of a sudden, like the last minute and a half, you're like, woo, I'm feeling it's cold. That's when you get that activation. So you definitely want to get to a point where you're getting goosebumps for the cold to be effective. The other thing you do is take a cold bath. Gather all your ice and run a cold bath, throw the ice in. It doesn't have to be a full bath, but enough that you cool your body down. That is very powerful. The other thing that you want to do is you want to do the box breathing. 4 breaths in, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and repeat. And do those in groups of 4, 4, 8, 16. You can do that in the cold. Chanting, singing, humming, that is a way to activate your vagus nerve. The other thing is to do this kind of clicking. If you do that kind of clicking of your tongue, that's a way to wake up and activate your vagus nerve. So I love that. The gargling is very powerful. The massaging as well, helpful. So I want to know, comment down below, was this helpful? Do you like this? If you do, give me a thumbs up. We're only at 38 thumbs up, and I hope you guys are doing your massaging with me. But I always really try to equip you all with some powerful information and resources and techniques that you can do at home. I know a lot of you are very encouraged by our day-to-day, our daily lives. And I really wanted to continue giving you all powerful information. We are, I think, on our 140th live show. It's a lot of information I've given to you, but I really want to try and continue to up the levels of information. So Jenny says, just tried the behind the ear with the C Bumblebee D balm. Yay, it's so good. Let's see, is the balm in full script? No, Karen, it isn't. It's sold separately. We still have issues here in the US with the financial institutions. So you go to a link, it's actually down below. So link down below. My one company that I love, they've got their balm, and there's a 20% off coupon code. So that is not, you won't ever find that particular item in a full script. Full script had a whole bunch of financial issues about a year ago, and they've had to scrap all that. So that's why some of the balms I sell in clinic, like the level 4 cream. But the reason why I love the balm from Octagon Biolabs is that it also has some really good relaxing supplements. Okay, June says, this was great. I took tons of notes. Yay. So you suffer from terrible panic attacks. Yes, this is really good. And literally you're doing your clicking when you're having a panic attack, start massaging, doing that. And then also you do a gargle. I mean, literally, like when you're in that, if you can gargle, you're going to notice it. So there's a lot of different things that you can enhance and use. Even if you're in a panic attack, jump in the shower, cold shower. So those are instant things that you can do to be impactful and to regulate that nerve. So when you're in an attack, if you're in a high, blood pressure is a little bit higher, if you're noticing, you've got some IBS or some constipation or even liver dysfunction, labs come back, your liver's a little skewed, T3, T4 are imbalanced on your thyroid, that's your liver. So you can do, enhance the vagus nerve. So much is regulated by the vagus nerve. And to be honest with you, friends, it doesn't get a lot of attention or love when it comes to the medical community, kind of assessing how do we invigorate it. It's really hard to kind of test and evaluate, do you have a dysfunctional vagus nerve? But there are symptoms that categorically indicate there's dysfunction, maybe even some nerve damage. And it's very easy to have that nerve damage. I mean, a simple whiplash car accident is enough. I have that, and my cervical spine, the lower cervical spine gets whacked out. And if I don't do my exercises and I'm not cognizant of my posture and keeping my body healthy and sleeping well and eating right, then sometimes that vagus nerve gets a little whacked out because of my cervical spine. And, when we think about like all these channels, these pathways, it's like the inner wiring of your house. You've got drywall, you got all these like little spaces of wires and everything. One thing gets skewed, it whacks everything out. Markets of Sunshine, one of our YouTube members, she says, so you can do this any time of the day. Absolutely. Any time of the day when you're in your car at a stoplight, you can do the massaging, you do and humming and singing. Let's see. Okay, Carrie, Jonikin. She says, please pray for me. She's heading back into school tomorrow. You live in South Mississippi. Oh, Mississippi, why are they sending you all this school? I don't get it. June, you're most welcome. Juliet, thank you for bringing the vagus nerve to attention. You rock. You're welcome. Joanne, yes, you can do it all day. Yep. She said, and it puts you in a good mood. I remember when I had my knee replacement, I was moaning. Then I said, start singing and I feel better chanting. Absolutely. And, like the chanting is very simple. There's a lot of, YouTube's great. YouTube has a lot of resources. Charmaine, this helps thyroid as well. Yes, it can. Especially if you've got thyroid imbalances. But one thing, when it comes to like the hormone structure, you need to repeat this a lot. Like, the immediate like panic, pain, some of those things, you're going to feel a more immediate hit. But with our hormones, it takes a while for the hormones to balance out. But definitely don't neglect to get your zinc and don't neglect to support your nerves with the right nutrition. So I've linked some links down below. Those are available in my Full Script store. Let's see. And Joanne says, Carrie, hope you're wearing a mask and a face shield. Yes. Yesterday's video, if you guys need resources, I kind of highlight all the things that you could equip your classroom with and in your car and, all sorts of things at home as well. Let's see. Denise says, Dr. Melissa, I just received my lymph stim. Yay. And my NAC. How can I incorporate this in my daily regimen? So lymph stim, depending on your need for it, you can take it 2 to 3 times a day. That's your maintenance dose. Therapeutic is a lot higher, sometimes 4 to 6. If I have folks in a flare, they're holding 20, 30 pounds of fluid in their body, which we do all the time. It's totally common. So you can do, the maintenance dose 2 to 3 times on the lymph stim. The NAC, I don't know which one you got, but that usually 1 time a day for NAC. And I like to take NAC at night. I feel like it works a little bit better, sometimes on an empty stomach. Let's see. Critical Thinker 313. I know that my natural noises and vibrations help when in pain. Yes. Oh, frequency healing. Love it. But the big thing is you can create your own frequency. So instead of listening to it, if you activate your own frequencies, that's actually more self-healing. And if you think about it, like cats purr. So we've got Pat. She has 2 cute little kitties. When cats purr, it's not just when they're happy. They purr for a lot of different reasons. When they're scared, when they need healing. And we also know that purr, it is part vibrational, but it also, we've seen studies, it will heal human bone. Same thing, we can activate our purr and literally that guttural chanting, humming, singing is very impactful. Kyler Gray, I messaged you on Instagram. My mother and I were exposed to COVID. Should we use it in Flamex and cod oil to prevent any heart issues from forming. Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on how you're experiencing. I have to apologize. This week's really tough for us. We have school starting, and I literally am in school side by side with Gabriel because he has the attention span of a gnat at 4 years old, and virtual is not his thing. So I'm like not online as much as I normally am. So I apologize. But we have a lot of video content, Kyler, and I would recommend you check out my live shows. Again, we have almost 140, I think, on the playlist, and you can get a lot of tips. So there's just a lot of information. Okay, so Carrie, Dr. Mill has been a blessing to me. Oh, thank you. Let's see. Okay, so definitely I've got to run. I got to get Gabriel set up. We're moving on to his circle time in school. Wish me luck. He's had several meltdowns yesterday. He was very upset. But we are thriving school. And for all of you dealing with this, hang in there, parents. What doesn't break you makes you stronger is like my motto of the week. But thank you for tuning in. Please do me a favor. Give me a thumbs up on this. Hit the share button. Everybody who's on, I've got 111 of you. You guys would make my day. I'd be so happy if you guys all hit the share button. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Twitter. You can tag me. I think it's MD Natural Health is my Twitter handle. And hit the share, and you can tag Natural Health Resources if you're part of our group or page on Facebook. I really appreciate that. Give me the like, hit the like. And this will quickly wrap. I did all my editing. I got a little bit more time in. I'm starting to work a little bit in the evenings to prep for our show so I can get Gabriel set up for an 8 a.m. start. So please comment on this video. That really helps the algorithm. I know I say that. There's a lot of YouTube chatter. So the more you comment, the more you like, the more you share, it actually enhances and helps my channel get this out there because something's dipped in the algorithm and we got to get back up there. So I appreciate that. And yes, thank you for tagging me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Be healthy and safe. Know I'm thinking about each of you. And tune in. Tomorrow is our live Q&A. Midday, I'll post for questions. So definitely send me your questions. I'm going to have those all printed out before our show, and we will dig into your health and wellness concerns, and questions can be of all topics. It's kind of like a fire hose. I just answer all your questions. So I'm grateful for your time. Happy Thursday, and many blessings to all of you. Bye, everybody. See you later. Have a great day. Bye. Bye. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate you.